Hi everyone, I'm Lauren and I'm an OT at Emerge Pediatric Therapy. I'm also here today with one of my coworkers, Laura, who's a speech therapist with us. We've partnered together to make this video about how to make sensory bins at home, and we really hope that your child enjoys this as much as we do. So you may be wondering, why do we use sensory bins? Sensory bins can be helpful to allow children the opportunity to explore different textures through play. It can also help kids who have tactile sensitivities to explore different textures in a fun and playful way. And the more that they explore new textures, it helps them to become more comfortable with what something new may feel like. Different kids may prefer different textures based on their tactile preferences. We recommend that you let your child feel the different textures that you're considering first in order to find the right fit of what to use for your sensory bin. Next, Laura is going to discuss some recommendations of some different textures for you guys to try.
The first step for setting up a sensory bin at home is to grab a container. This can be a really large container, a really small container, whatever you think would be most successful for your child and whatever you have around the house really. The second step is choosing what to put in your sensory bin. I would recommend trying out the item with your child first to make sure this is something they enjoy and are not aversive to before creating a giant bin. Some of our favorite items to use at Emerge include lots of dried rice, dried pasta, dried beans, dried lentils. We also enjoy using sand, whether that be dry sand or kinetic sand. Orbeez, which are really soft and kind of wet beads that you can use. Something else that might be fun and a little different is filling up a bin with water. Water bins are another type of sensory bin, or maybe foam soap or shaving cream. For children who are at risk of eating the items that you put in the sensory bin, there are lots of safe options that you can go forward with. Some of our favorites include making a sensory bin out of rolled oats. You could also grind up graham crackers or goldfish, any sort of edible cracker to make a sand out of it. That's edible. You could try using cooked rice or cooked spaghetti. You could also try creating a Jell-O sheet and having your child dig in through the Jell-O, or something that's not edible but is still safe for children who tend to put things in their mouths is using Mardi Gras beads, because they're all connected and they won't be able to swallow the little pieces easily.
Playing in sensory bins can get messy. Here are some recommendations for setting limits and decreasing the mess. You can set up the sensory bin in a large container or box. You can also use a Ziploc bag, but this will decrease the tactile input that the child receives since they are touching it through a barrier. When playing, you can put the container on a blanket or towel for easy cleanup. You can also use the bin outside to avoid having to clean up inside. Outside can be especially helpful if you are doing water play. Set the expectation before starting to play that items should stay inside the bin. This will help your child know what is expected. Limit the number of children allowed to play at one time. Use under adult supervision so that you can provide redirection to keep items inside the container when needed.
There are lots of different ways that you can play with sensory bins at home. A lot of children will love covering their hands or their feet or even their whole body in the items in the sensory bin, but there are also ways that you can work on expanding language and play while you use these sensory bins. One of these ways is hiding objects in the sensory bins that the child has to find. And these objects can be whatever sort of language concepts you're working on. If your child is working on articulation, you might hide lots of pictures with their speech sound in it. If a child's working on identifying colors or shapes or animals, you might hide some of those in the bin. It can also be really motivating for longer engagement to hide preferred toys in the bin that will capture their interest. So they might have to find a piece of a puzzle and then have to go put that in the puzzle. So this works on sequencing different steps in play. For older children who are working on letters and numbers, you might hide some letters or numbers and try to work that regulating sensory experience that's also really fun into more challenging academic tasks to kind of improve that motivation and interest in completing those tasks. You can also work a lot on turn taking when you're using sensory bins. So take turns hiding and searching for items. Take turns scooping up the bins and making them rain down. You can also hide items that work on a lot of different fine motor skills in the bins. So you might put a spoon in there and practice using utensils by picking up in the spoon and feeding a puppet. You might put different containers in there. So see if a child is able to open and close plastic eggs or small Tupperware containers. Something else that can be fun, especially with kinetic sand, is including cookie cutters and plastic tools in there, and then working on making different designs and using the tools for different functions. Oh, so we can hammer it, we can roll it, we can stack it. And another great thing to use with these for kids who love construction or cars is to include construction vehicles. So practice moving things in one area and playing in that way.